facts about it.
Right. But just give us your read on what you experienced, what you know from what you experienced there.
They're not against imagery, the Amish, they're not against the imagery for spiritual purposes, as such, as we used to always think that the wild natives or savages did not like to have a photograph taken because it captured their soul.
That's what we've been told. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, that's not the way it is with them. With the Amish and this particular group,
right,
the problem has to do with an acceptance of humility.
Humility.
One must be humble. I mean, that's an extremely important aspect of being Amish and German Baptist or any one of the other particular groups.
Yeah.
Mennonite, it's all the same in a sense. Humility is an extremely important aspect of it. And taking photographs and art of people in particular it threatens that
notion. It focuses too much on the ego and not enough on the true
and so
humble self.
So it was always with a little bit of trepidation that I would approach, with cameras, and that was.
Well,
always,
that's almost like walking up with weapons.
With a gun. It can be threatening. I tried to make everything non-threatening as possible, and had most success was when, if it were adults, is when they were doing something, when they were working, or when they were functioning in something.
Right.
With the children, they would pose.
Sure.
They loved it.
Well, of course they did.
It was a lot of fun.
And they're less self-conscious, and the whole notions of what it means to be a humble person doesn't occur into us until we've been caught being not so humble. And that's just an amazing statement right there, the interaction of the artist with the family, and the fact that they allowed you to begin to do things that perhaps they would not have done with another artist or another situation. Something about your personal interaction with them allowed them to see perhaps this is not destroying their humility, but maybe in some way expressing it.
One of my close friends he's retired from the Milwaukee one of the newspapers.
Yes.
And he was an illustrator, cartoonist, and other things for them. And Hank was also a very competent artist on his own. And occasionally we would get together. He would come out and stop on his way to his place up around Camp Douglas. And he would stop in our town, our small town, and we could have coffee and talk.
Sure.
And so this one time he came there, and he says, he showed me what he was doing. He had some big show going in Milwaukee, and he said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I've been doing these pictures of the Amish."
Yeah.
He just kind of looked and he said, "You what?"
How the heck do you do that?
And I said, "Yeah, I've been doing these I've got this, a lot of photographs, and I've been doing it now for several months."
Yeah.
And he said, How'd you get that? How'd you do that?
I mean, that's almost like saying, "Well, I got pictures of some Muslim woman's legs."
He says, "I've been trying for 7 years."
Isn't that something? Well, I guess because he was trying.
And I said, "Well, I wasn't exactly trying, but it took me 2 months."
Yeah.
Before I had their confidence.
It's absolutely fascinating, how many records do we really have, photographic records of the Amish? How many paintings do we have of the Amish? How many?
Well, we have, it is not, it also is the same thing. I'm not the only photographer that's had that good fortune. But
and perhaps not all Amish families are equally insular.
That's right. This was an interesting family. I found out, once I got to know them, I found out that they had originally they had been Baptist, not Amish, but Baptist.
German Baptist.
No,
just
they were
Baptist.
Baptist, and I don't know if it had been Anabaptist,
Anabaptist.
or what, but
Mhm.
anyway, the father had been a jet pilot and airlines pilot for one of the major airline, and then he left that to become a professor at the university
Mhm.
and taught flying or whatever aviation, and also became a crop duster and became well, not really a crop duster. He became an executive in a crop dusting chemical manufacturing company, a large one. And it was that they had made a decision somewhere along the line to become Baptist. I mean, Amish. And so they moved to a community in Canada, became a member of that community, and then ended up in Wisconsin in this community.
Right.
Which was an interesting thing. I found out that there were a lot of converts into the Amish communities, and some of them are highly acceptable. I mean, there's no change and everything else. They're right in and adapt all of the means and everything.
And the dress and all of that is very important, isn't it?
Yes, but it's also up here,
Yeah.
and and down here. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I found like with this family eventually stopped being Amish and became German Baptist because there were certain things, and among them was that he did not want to speak German, and he did not want to have the services in German all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the community was old order Amish and would not bend to such a thing, would not allow him. They gave him a timeline, and of course he didn't make the timeline, and so he decided he would go to another order, and they've been happy ever since. So, and he likes that lifestyle.
Yeah.
The children have grown up and have since gone from horses to, some of them to tractors and electricity and other things, but still old and within that framework.
Yeah, I know that in the Amish and the Mennonite communities, there's lots of different hybrids as to how much technology they will or will not find acceptable.
There was one instance, and I don't, the gentleman became shunned.
Yes, I've heard
He
about
was a friend. He was a friend of mine, and he too was a convert. And he was a convert, and he converted. I don't know how shortly. This was just shortly after the Vietnam War. He was exposed to a lot of problems in Vietnam, and it affected him terribly. And so he went into the Amish community and settled into it and raised a family and everything. But there was one thing that it just didn't. It didn't wrap well with that community, and that was during a conversation. Somehow, it was brought up was evolution.
Oh.
And he had to admit, as a matter of truth, that he accepted evolution. And of course, he was given an opportunity
To de-Darwinize himself.
to drop that, and he could not. He refused. He could not do that. And so, after a period of time, he was shunned.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I knew the family well.
Yeah.
And to see how it affected the family.
Yes.
It was, and because within the family, it's a complete separation.
Yes.
From it. So there are elements of this that strike at something that I think is more important.
Yes.
Than those particular rules.
Right. Right.
I mean, so there is it is not a nirvana. It is not perfection.
It is a searching for purity, a searching for nirvana, a creation of heaven and earth in a way But I think one thing we learn as artists and creators of artifacts and creators of culture is that we are always being remade like sandcastles. You know, what we try to say, hey, this is the way God wants it to be. Next thing you know, it all comes and is washed away, and we have a whole new order being revealed. So, you know, the Amish are like many artistic. This is an artistic people.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about each person who uses, we're religious, cultural, historic, biblical, in this case, family values, relationships to the notion of the original land, the concepts of Eden. This is a very deep theology, actually, when you really look into the depth of what they're talking about. But then you have the social problems and the realizations of what happens when religion is behaving as religion, and is no longer just a cultural experience of eminence, but becomes something that becomes a point of conflict, where one culture, one set of thoughts, one religious idea or non-religious idea requires you to be shunned. And you know, and so that's that other side of culture and community. Let's take a break.